wengine ni wetu, lakini inaonekana they need time ya kutulia, si ndio? Kuacha matusi, kuacha spidi nyingi na kujua ya kwamba kazi na ukweli washinda matusi na chuki.
Wacha kuniletea maneno my friend. Wewe sukuma candidate yako bwana Kitendawili. Unaniongelea nini? Sijui kama tunaelewana. Mr. President, please stop talking about me. Talk about your candidate.
Now, if you came to this country this morning and you've never heard of Kenya, you'd never think that these are people that just less than 10 years ago told Kenyans, tafadhali tupeni kura yenu, we will make this country the best thing you've ever seen. But it is what it is. Fred, yes. How much more? Just how many days? Seven to 8th of August. No, I'm saying 8th because that's the final day that President Kenyatta will have all the full powers. What more shall we see?
Actually, the president, as it is today, has around 30 days in office.
Yeah. Not true, but there are certain things he can't do.
And I agree with you. When you look at the type of engagement they're having with the deputy, it's very untidy. But it's untidy to what extent? It's untidy to the extent that today, the deputy president, with all the rights of expression he's enjoying, he has extended it to now what for us in Azimio we call propaganda. Because if it is true that they were elected with the president on one ticket, and it is true that he's still the sitting deputy president, then he must concentrate himself also on the campaigns. President Uhuru Kenyatta will go home. In fact, President Uhuru Kenyatta has a constitutional duty to finish and to go. He is going. He has served his maximum term. The deputy president has always told the president that he respects him. But if you look at the last few days, there was a deliberate plan and idea of trying to come out in a manner that you would see the president is annoyed. I don't know what is annoying him. He has said that he is going to campaign and win this election. And he's now telling the president, who has equal rights to choose or to support whoever he wishes, to continue supporting that project without mentioning him. The president has answered and said, no, when you lie to Kenyans, I must call you out because I've worked with you. I think that is the contestation. But for me, I think with the 7 days remaining, that must tone down. And I also think that President Kenyatta, as he finishes his term and launches his last projects, he has a right to tell Kenyans what he believes should be the continuation of the legacy. And he also has a right to tell Kenyans where the challenges have been and who he thinks can help him unravel some of these challenges. The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, we want to ask him from Azimio that he has made some serious allegation that to us negates the rights of expression that is provided in law. Because he says that for as long as the president does not kill his children. And I saw his running mate say the same thing in another county of issues to do with the death threats. I don't think it is a tidy place to be because the supporters are watching. And should any criminal try and do something today from those allegations, then this country can go down. We don't want that. We want an election that is peaceful. We want the deputy president to go everywhere he would want to go and campaign in the remaining days, and no one should even touch him. Raila Amolo Odinga was in Eldoret. He was received very well, and we want to believe that the deputy president also can be received anywhere the same way, because this election is for all of us. This is our country. But what we are trying to tell the deputy president to do, please, when you speak at each other, and fight and incite, talk in a manner that seems to be insightful, we want to say that is not good for our country, that is not good for this election. We know the stakes are high, but Fred, we must tone down.
Fred, do you see anything wrong from the side of the president?
I have said that before on this show, that the way they talk at each other is not tidy. I have said that before, that the deputy president is free to campaign from wherever he is and wherever he wants to be. The president should continue launching his last projects, but also he should speak from a point of knowing that we are going to an election that is high stake. And this election, the supporters are likely to misunderstand what he says. But yesterday he came out clear and said, no, me, I've been in this seat for the longest, so, I mean, for the time I've been,
Fred,
and I've never...
Let's listen to them, because they spoke about that, the president spoke about it yesterday, the deputy president spoke about it, I believe it was on Friday. Watch.
Wewe sasa unaanza kunithreaten mimi. Ati utanifanya nini? Bora usiue watoto wangu. Lakini mimi na wewe tafadhali tuheshimiane.
Kuna haja ya kuambia watu nataka kuua. Si mumenitusi karibu miaka 3. Kuna mtu amewaguza. Hiyo miaka 3 nimekuwa kwa kiti. Si nilikuwa na uwezo. Sasa wakati naenda kupatiana serikali na sina uwezo, ndio niko na time ya kukutafuta. Piga story yako, uza sera zako, wachana na mimi. Mimi nafanya kazi yangu, nimalize. Nyinyi muende muombe kura. Wananchi wakiwapatia sawa, wakiwanyima, twende nyumbani pamoja. Shida iko wapi?
So, let me hear from Kile here, before I get to Irungu.
How I see it, that's just a red herring, because it shows a good job that Honorable Karua has been doing in the mountain, where Kenya Kwanza was kind of a stronghold. So instead of debating on the issues and saying what exactly they're going to do for the people, he now diverts the attention from, let's not now discuss about policies. Let's not discuss about what he calls bottom-up. Let's now discuss about personality politics. Let's now discuss about who's going to murder who. So that he's trying to get, to persuade people through sympathy, because he thinks that he's mobilized enough. But now the persuasion part, the aspect where the voting block where Honorable Martha Karua is hiving slowly from his side to Azimio, he thinks by personalizing the political context, by attaching the failures of Uhuru government or with Azimio, will bring more voters to his side. But unfortunately, to me, what I see, it's just the usual diversion tactics that as I said earlier, I know is going to happen. Is what I'm expecting during this week, because mobilization has been done. Now the persuasion aspect of it is what now becomes difficult and makes most politicians turn to personality politics. So to me, we'll see more of this.
You don't think it's founded in any way? The allegations by the deputy president that there has been night meetings and the president is speaking about him, sort of decampaigning him. You don't think that is factual?
I don't have any evidence to believe so, but I believe the president can be meeting his administration team to discuss the security of the nation and peaceful elections.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. There's something you've said that Martha Karua has been eating on the cake of Kenya Kwanza.
You can see, for example, the polling. When they were last in Murang'a, 5 months ago, Murang'a, the Kenya Kwanza, they were ranging between 65 to 70%. Now, and us, we were at around lower than 20%. Now, they are at 46% and we are at 43%. So you see the difference.
That's data from who?
That's data from...
that must be an internal data from Kenya.
It's data from... it's internal and specifically from assistance from other organizations that...
It's interesting when you quote such data, because, I mean, I've not had the advantage of looking at it.
You can also look at TIFA.
But I do consume... yes, the TIFA research, and it shows a totally different image from what you're depicting here. It talks about Mount Kenya. Ruto has more than 60%, for Raila Odinga now has 27%.
Speaking of
and it hasn't, just hold on, yes, I'm talking about what they have reported, Mount Kenya. And before Martha Karua came to the fore, they were at 24%, now 27%. So that's 3 percentage points. I'm not sure that's significant to talk about.
It is 3% is significant in terms of the whole, that's 10 counties. So there are certain counties where we are not doing really well, and that we know. I was specifically speaking about example that we did, our own internal that we did for Murang'a, and that's what we saw. And it's you can even see in other areas. For example, in Murang'a, the governor who was there has decamped and moved to, because of how he sees the ground is. He came to the better side. So this is something that is evident. is evident in terms.
Well, fine, but also we know that certain moves are made for political survival, political affiliation.
Do you survive to fail or you survive to...
we can talk about that later. I mean, this is what I was talking about. When every political party has their own data, it becomes very difficult to really authenticate or rather confirm and verify. But Irungu, back to the question of the spat between the president and his deputy and what he's gotten into right now. I mean, what should voters, how should they treat this? Because these are the same gentlemen that were laughing, holding hands, walking together, matching shirts, matching ties, and this is the end they have chosen.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of being controversial, I think they should voters should dismiss this kind of language. I think whether it comes from the president, the deputy president, or any of the presidential candidates, or any of the gubernatorial candidates, it is not helpful. I mean, this is not really why we go to elections. We go to elections to elect leaders who have a clear vision of how to translate our constitution into programs, policies, and frameworks that benefit people. And I think we have to keep asking our candidates, what is your manifesto? What is it that you are planning to do with the rising cost of living? What is it that you're planning to do with human rights violations? What are you planning to do? And there are a whole range of things that people are concerned about. Keep the conversations on that. I think the other thing, you raised an interesting point, Sam, like how do citizens keep themselves sane during this period? And I think there's 3 tips that I would give you. So this is kind of like 3 mental health tips for 47 million Kenyans. The first one is this. Please remember that opinion polls are not elections. The court of public opinion is not a real court. This one I was told by my son. The third one is that party tallies are not election results, right? These 3 tips will keep you sane during this period. But what will keep you energized, what will keep you focused and really aligned with your own interest will be really looking at those candidates from the perspective of what is it that they bring, what is their track record, what are the ideas that they bring, are they fresh, or are they essentially the same old ideas that we've been seeing from the last 10 to 15 years. I think the last thing that we really need to ask the press to do is to be careful not to keep looping the most scandalous, incendiary and intolerant remarks throughout the course of this week, because there's a way in which a phrase, which could have taken about 30 seconds, could then become a permanent media loop as we go through this. For some of us who remember 2008, we remember how certain visuals began to play out long after the issues had been resolved in places like Naivasha and Nakuru and Eldoret. So I think that's the third point. And then very lastly, I think just to comment, there are a number of sane kind of voices of sanity that we are hearing. One of them is the Archbishop Muheria and the Catholic bishops. The other is the women's representatives that were speaking yesterday. And I'm sure, as Peter said, ELOG and the civic observers will continue to remind us that what this is about. This is essentially an opportunity to exercise our constitutional responsibility and to vote, but it is a responsibility also to care for those who disagree with us.
Very interesting from your list, and I'm just wondering, Mbaye, is it so difficult for politicians, political parties to be sane at such a time? Sorry,
is sanity possible?
Forgive my language.
That's harsh.
Yes, it's a journey. And some
it's a journey.
Yes, and we are getting there. I can tell you, going forward, something we call political hygiene, political sobriety, is coming back. I mean, we are getting there. It's a journey. For example, we must thank, it's good to thank God for what we have achieved. It's only a week to the elections. And more or less, it has been peaceful, not very bad. I mean, we had issues at the rallies where people are being stoned, Mother Karua, DP, but some it has cooled down. So we want to thank God for that already. Now, but let me say this, looking at what you have just mentioned, and in the media, we have children, they are watching, everybody playing news, because you have to report, by the way. Let nobody blame the media. We had that situation in the past where, why are you broadcasting this? You have to report what is happening. I mean, for you, exactly. But it's unfortunate. Allow me to say this. Some of us who were in Jubilee, for example, and elected on Jubilee ticket from 2017, we were in this one good family from 2013, and we were told actually to make the family stronger, kill all the parties, we become one family. In one party, we live happily thereafter. Now, it has come to this. It's not good. It's actually painful. Sometimes we feel, wow, did it have to come to this? Now, it happened. But I will tell you this, Sam. The battle of the parents, the mother and the father, you can only intervene for too far. Because you don't know the details of the bedroom. That one we have to say very clear, because we all belong to this nation. You know, we don't want to come here and begin pointing fingers at the president and the deputy. These are two holders of the constitutional offices. They are our leaders. They bore the weight of the Constitution. Now, when you see both of them at the highest level pointing fingers at that, it becomes scary. It's not very good. It's actually not nice, because anger and whatever is happening between the president, both of them have powers. So what we can do right now, Sam, for the remaining days, what we can do is, if I would call that, use that imagery, as the children of the family, don't point fingers to the parents. Don't point fingers to the president or the deputy. You don't know. When they say about assassination, you wouldn't know, seated here. You don't know the details. So the best we can do, Sam, is urge peace. Let's go through this election. Let us hope for the 8 days that are going to be peaceful. Let's hope nothing will happen. All those things are being said. Nothing is going to happen. And we vote. After that, we say, oh, thank God. Well, it didn't work for them, but here we come. We have a new government. That is a message we are preaching. We are preaching the message of peace and hope, that there is tomorrow. We only have a few days to go. But there's one thing I want to urge Kenyans. Look at the uncertainty. Maybe you could go to that, but I can mention that in passing. This country cannot afford prolonged times of uncertainty after elections. We cannot afford. We are a very small economy. We tried that in 2008. It was very bad. So I'm urging all the voters in this republic, Sam, please make up your mind very fast. Go and vote for Loud One. For Loud One, clean and precise. Let us avoid this thing, narrative, rejecting results, going to the courts. And the prayer from Bishop Muheria and all the Christians today. I hear many Christians, they are praying every day, fasting. Please, can you pray and fast that once the votes are cast and counted, that there's going to be such peace on the rulers that they will not go to courts, they will not reject the results, and we move on. Now, that is what we should be focusing. Our parents, we love them. They are there by the Constitution. There's nothing we can do about them. I don't want to come and say, oh, it happened and all that, because they know. Maybe there are things happening here tonight. You hear there need meetings, all that. When I like when you asked my brother, well, how do you go beef insecurity at night, like building capacity building for the chiefs at night? But those are dynamics. There are going to be so much of them.
Who has done that?
Who has done that?
Who has done that?
No, that's what I'm saying. He said that the chiefs are being done capacity building at night. So we want to calm down.
Are you saying? Just hold it.
Yeah.
Are you saying there has been night meetings with chiefs?
Now, that's what has been arranged.
We are saying it.
No, that's what the deputy have said. That there are some night meetings. Now, me and you seated here would know.
But you're repeating it, and you're on this show. That's what I'm asking. Are you saying something you know of, or it's just
No, I'm saying the deputy president has said that he has arranged their night meetings. So what I'm saying, and when you asked my brother, he confirmed something to the extent that they are being trained at night. So I don't know.
Who saying that? No.
In a nutshell, because for me here, what I want to argue is...
You're adding a few words to his mouth.
So what we are saying, Sam, here is this. We want to move forward. We are seated here 7 days, right? We have to show direction. Where are we? Kindly, let us avoid all this we are having here. What you are talking here for the 7 days, Sam, to avoid it, let's go and win so decisively, so well, such that there will be no choice of rejecting results. Let IBC do their work so well for the remaining days. Kindly, when you see our parents, exchanging words, pray for them more. Pray for them even more, for peace of God to be upon them.
And it's important.
They are our leaders.
It's important to say that these parents you're talking about is the president and the deputy.
It's the president. I'm just using the imagery. It's the president and the deputy. They are constitutional holders of power. Remember what happened in South Sudan? Somebody feels I'm the president, the other feels I'm the deputy. I have some powers. And you see, we don't want to go there, Sam.
Okay. Fred, what lessons are we learning from this, that the next regime, hoping that we get a winner in first round, what must they learn? What must they avoid, whether they are in office for 5 years or for the next 10 years?
Thanks, Sam. Before I answer that, I want to just advise my good friend Bai that the political parents are fighting. We really sympathize, but they have an option of going to the auntie and uncle, Martha and Raila. They love solace and they love peace there. So that's where I belong. Now,
I thought it's Baba and Mama, not Jomba and Shangazi.
To them, they don't recognize Baba, so it's an uncle. So I think the lessons that we must learn is particularly on the choice of a running mate. Because we have seen what is coming out now is that actually it appears that William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, while they were elected together and they convinced Kenyans at that time that they'll deliver certain aspects of the manifesto, and they have done that and they have had these challenges. Today it is coming out that actually they were not in it with sincerity. Because today the other person is saying, you know, don't talk about me. I know you are holding meetings to try and put me down. We want to believe that the key lessons is that the choice of running mate must be cemented also with loyalty. The choice of running mate, the choice of ticket must also be believable. The choice of ticket must also be a ticket that Kenyans must count on and must be accountable. And it is a ticket that when have a problem, they can sit down together and agree to disagree in private and sort those issues without coming out to the public. Because the public do not want to know more about the fights. They want to know more about what you are going to deliver.
Those boxes you enumerated there had been ticked in 2013.
They had been ticked, but unfortunately, today we are realizing that they were ticked in a hurry. So you must take time before you tick. Read through the boxes, then tick when you are sure. When you are not sure, don't tick. There's something that we have seen, and I'm sure you must have seen it also. As we go into this election, you're going to see a lot of propaganda and news that shows that the other side or both sides are annoyed. You saw a billboard, I think, on one of the roads that picked the cue from the decision of the court, where one of the candidates today, running mates, was ordered to give back some money to the public. And then after a few minutes, we saw another one where they were saying that there's an old man who should now retire. Those are issues that are going to annoy supporters, because when you remember when sometimes back we had a very unfortunate incident, wakiweka tunaweka, those things. We don't want to go there, Sam. And that's why I'm saying the key lessons that we must learn in this election is that political marriages will come and go. But the way we pursue the political agenda, the political sanity, is more important than even the political game itself. We must have people in office that believe in this country first before believing in any other thing. Then we must have people that the public must believe in. From us in Azimio, because Dr. Mbai has talked about more of Kenya Kwanza, we believe that the ticket of Martha and Raila is a ticket that Kenyans must try and now believe in and will give a chance. When they give us a chance, we have learned from the challenges and the failures of Uhuru. Those failures are personal, some of them are public, some of them are institutional. We want to correct that. We are asking the people of Kenya, give us a chance to correct the failures.
Fred, now you're getting into campaign messages because what you're saying can actually be said by anyone else, just replacing the word of the political party. But Irungu, we know that the president, after 8th of August, will have certain things that he cannot do. He cannot nominate or appoint a judge. He cannot nominate or appoint any other public officer. He cannot nominate, appoint or dismiss cabinet secretaries or other state or public officers. And I emphasize public officers. He cannot nominate, appoint or dismiss ambassadors, diplomats. He cannot exercise the power of mercy, and he cannot confer national honor. So to speak, allow me to use the term lame duck, but how should he, and it's not an insult, Fred, how should he conduct the affairs of government and manage this country at such a trying time, or a very important, critical time in the transition that the country goes through?
I mean, I think just starting off with kind of where we were discussing, I mean, I think, the relationship between the president and the deputy president, I don't have it that it shows insincerity. I have it that the interests have changed and that their interests no longer converge. And what we're seeing really is the equivalent in a marriage context of an uncontested divorce, right? And it's bitter and they're always messy, right? But I do feel for this elections that this is a side conversation. I think the real conversation is who is going to take over this very indebted state and this very traumatized economy and the 47 million people that really want leadership in this moment. So I think we have to keep our focus on that area. Particularly in the last 1 week as we move to the elections. I think if I think a little bit about, if I can just create a scenario very visually. So just say that the deputy president wins the election and they have that moment where the president has to hand over the instruments of power. one would expect that regardless of whether it is the Deputy President or the Right Honourable Raila Odinga, that the President would be graceful, he would be supportive, and whoever it is that takes that position would get the full support of the presidency, or the previous presidency, the last president. You know, there's often a story that's told about American presidents where as they show the incoming first family around the house, the outgoing president takes the incoming president to the Oval Office and opens the drawer and says, by the way, I've left you a letter. Please read it after I've left the room. And invariably what happens, and I'm told this is how Barack Obama lost all his black hair, that he gets into this letter and he's told, actually, the economy is shot, you're broke, and there is growing tensions within the society. One would hope that when the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, writes this letter to the incoming president, there is some tips on how to govern, effectively, how to protect human rights and how to ensure that the economy rebounds into a prosperous space. And I think that's what I would expect to see, some level of magnanimity and support for the incoming president. And I think we're far from it at the moment. And I do hope in the last few days we see the tensions come down and you see the beginnings really of a smooth transition process.
Very interesting. Do Kenyan presidents write letters?
I just created that one for the president. I'm sure State House is watching.
Some notes. There must be some handover notes or something.
Yeah, like we do handover notes in our office, workplaces.
Yes, there must be something.
At least
like
where are the keys?
Or something,
where are the lights for the State House?
The state of the nation. I'm sure there must be something. Some state of the nation.
But it's very specific to a letter. There's that very popular, or is it famous letter between Bush Senior to who beat him?
Bush Senior to Clinton.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. A very popular letter. So for you, Kabale Kile.
Yes.
Very confusing. What do you think should be the conduct of the presidency in that election week up until the time that, because I mean, this election could go all the way up to November if there's a successful challenge at the Supreme Court and a rerun or a fresh election is ordered by the court. How should the presidency conduct itself in the remaining time?
The president should not be biased. Should not be biased. But now here's where it's a bit tricky, because as a citizen, he also has a right. But as a responsible citizen, knowing what we bestow upon him, he should be very careful in the words that he chooses. He should be very careful as to how he reacts to some of the insults that are being thrown his way. And he should also be careful in terms of how he, for example, meeting his administration. Because you see, for example, him meeting his administration is being misconstrued as him forcing them to do a certain job. And remember, this is a president. So when should he then meet his administration, police or what, and his chiefs? So I think he should be very careful in terms of...
Just hold on. When he meets these chiefs, what do you think they're talking about?
He needs to, at this time, I believe he's doing his job, because information sourcing and information gathering...
What do you think they're talking about?
They're just talking about the state of the elections in particular areas, and I believe he's telling his chiefs and his teams to be vigilant, to be careful, to preach peace, and to make sure that all that negates a peaceful election.
And you see no problem with that at this point in time?
I see no problem with the president doing his job. That is one that he was given by the people of Kenya.
Just to confirm here, we are not sure there has been meetings between the president and the chiefs. It's just
if the DP says that
information from the
National Security Council, then I believe if he sits in the Security Council and being the deputy president, I know he has information, and maybe if it's not true, then how are we supposed to...
Kabale, can we just not talk about hearsay here? Let's just talk about what is verifiable and what we think would be the right thing. But anyway, A few weeks ago, he told KTN News that he no longer sits in the National Security Council, that the president blocked him from that. He even said that some of the officials there no longer pick his calls. So, but I don't know what the truth is.
Now, that's the issue. That's why I'm saying for the presidency, I think also, I think he also needs to be a bit open to the people, become more public in terms of what he says instead of, so that we stop having this hearsay.
Do we really need that in a transition? I mean, the question I'm asking is, in your opinion, because your party leader, Martha Karua, is a running mate.
Is a running mate.
And that's under the Azimio presidential ticket. Yes. On this other side, there is Kenya Kwanza. Of course, there is Professor Jakoya, and there's also Moro Wahiga. But looking, if we are for a moment to say that opinion polls are a bit showing us what is possible, then it's either Raila Odinga or William Ruto. So what I'm asking is, because your party leader is a possible deputy president after the election, how then should the president conduct the affairs of this country, knowing, yes, like he says, anyone can win, and they'll have to hand over because that's the constitutional requirement?
I think he should continue doing what he's doing. He should continue finishing up with his projects, because these are the projects that he told us he'll do. I believe he needs also to continue working towards making sure setting procedural setups of the transitional process is smooth, and also making sure and assuring Kenyans that the security of the nation is true and is as is, and assuring us that will not go back to what happened 2007, 2008.
I think so. Sorry.
Yeah. So I believe he needs to continue finishing his projects and also assuring the security of the nation.
Okay, and of course, yesterday he unveiled the Nairobi Expressway. We understand that later this week, or maybe today, he should be in Kiambu to unveil the Kirigiti Stadium. There's still some projects, including the National Police Service Level 4 Hospital along
Bagath.
Raila Odinga Way.
Raila Odinga Way.
I think
and some other projects.
I think some of what you're saying, and we need to be very categorical. We have to manage this nation and manage ourselves very well because of the future. The president has a lot of work to do, and the single most thing the president should do is actually, like you said, the 7 days remaining constitutionally for him to do some functions to finish, and simply oversee the transition. Now that is the biggest gift. And from where I sit, having worked with the president before in the party, I know one thing: the president has no any other motive of doing otherwise. He is a president who would want to see that he has finished his term, he has built a good legacy, and then he can be consulted by everybody else across the world. That's what I believe. So, and he said it. I like what you have just heard here. He said, "Fine, mukichaguliwa ni sawa. Kama mutachaguliwa," and he said those words are very important for my leader. So let's take those words. Let's take him at his words. For now, he'll continue doing what he must do. And also, as we continue this week, let's reduce so much this issue of the president vis-a-vis the deputy president, because the president is not on the ballot. Can
they start by using it themselves?
That's what I'm saying. We are appealing. So because it's not on the ballot, the president is above there. He's a statesman. He's a person who immediately after he hands over, the incoming president will have an obligation or rather to go and ask for guidance from President Uhuru. So we don't want to go there. The person as Kenya Kwanza we know we are competing with is Azimio, not the President Uhuru. We want to be very clear about that, Sam. So even as we go, and you mentioned about the agenda setting function of the media, let's also see that. Let's take this thing into perspective. Because it becomes embarrassing and a bit awkward for some of us who are actually students of political science to begin to be told to talk about President Uhuru Kenyatta, who actually has led this nation. He has done his bit. Now, and we want to thank God for this country. We have other nations where nothing happens. 2 years, there are coups, there are wars, there are everybody else. We are doing well, Sam. And in any case, there must be an election. And suppose there was only one faction for fighting to win. It would be very boring. Now, that's why there are two competing factions. What we must do here and say, let's manage this thing well, knowing that this is a country. We are very clear in our mind who our opponent is. We don't want to be dragged and to be caused like we are causing our people to see like we are fighting the president. It does not apply. That is what we are saying, Sam. In that spirit, the president has a lot of work to do. We respect him. And I'll tell you this, Sam. Immediately the president retires, you'll see the affection, because people respect elders. People respect elders. And you're going to see that. So can we allow the president of this republic, like now he holds the sword, Even biblically, you don't joke with a person who holds the sword. We want to give him his time to do things the best way. And we are saying here, let people not hide so far, allowing us to be seen to be fighting the president. Is to come, we sort it out, and some will repeat here again. We are waiting to go and vote. We are doing this in a very humble way. As Kenya Kwanza, we don't have a lot of powers on this earth, but we have God and the people. That's all. Can we vote? Some. Then we come here. I'll be the first person to come here and accept results once it's done well. We'll come back here. I'll be the first one. On behalf of Kenya Kwanza, I will accept the results.
Okay, all right. And that's a good point. Fred, why are you laughing? I mean...
I like the pieces of advice that Mbae is giving. And as somebody who sits in the technical team of Kenya Kwanza, I'm sure I will extend this advice to that team because that's what we want to see. For sure, I agree with you. We must allow the president to do his work and finish and see a peaceful transition. That's what we are praying for. That's what we're praying for. Sorry, you wanted to ask something.
Yes, I was asking the same question because, yes, you spoke...
on behalf of Steve.
You spoke about the lessons that you're picking, but I also want to hear from you because, I mean, Kenyans have their own expectations.
Yes.
Again, from your statement, get back our lives.
Yes, yes.
So how do we facilitate that from our political class and especially those that are in government?
I think one of the things that we must be careful about is the commitments and promises that politicians are making today. The reason why we are here today is because of so many challenges. Some of them are administrative, some of them are political, some of them are issues that are beyond our control as a country, the global. But in this election, the politicians have put their best foot forward, they have put their numbers, they have put the agenda. For us in Azimio, we have the Azimio agenda, the Inawezekana agenda. What we must ensure is that when we win this election, then we deliver this to the people of Kenya. The expectation that the public are having today so that their lives can go back. The other time when we were here, some were talking about why every time we go into these elections, the price of unga goes up. Why that we have issues to do with fuel, gas. Those are the challenges that we are experiencing every day. There are people in this country, some today, they are wondering where they're going to get their next meal from. Those people are going to wake up Monday, on 9th in the morning to go and cast their ballot. What is next for them? What do they expect? They expect that whoever they elect, whether Azimio or Kenya Kwanza, that person will for sure commit and deliver the promises that they made. That is the expectation. But how do we do that? Number one, we must be true to ourselves. Number two, we must come back together and rebuild with opponents. Because you go into an election where we are competing. Dr. Mbae said we're just political opponents. After the election, we must come together. Whoever wins this election, and for us we believe Raila will win it, must come back and recollect with the people that he competed with and build a stronger, firm nation that everyone feels to belong in. That is the expectation that the public are having today. And in Azimio, we are committing that anyone we are competing with today is not an enemy. Anyone we're competing with has a role to play once we win this election. And if they beat us, we also have a role to play. But we believe that the agenda we have is so strong, believable, and candid and cogent that Kenyans will vote for it because that is what they have always asked for. It is an opportunity that no other. This ticket, we ask you Kenyans again, please, let's go out, vote, and ensure that after the voting, we remain peaceful, allow IBC to announce the result. Then after that, let's rebuild our country together. Okay. Winners and losers.
Right. And Irungu, let me take you to that rebuilding of a country. Well, did you demolish it in the first place? But you said that opinion polls are not elections, but there will be elections on 9th of August. And by 15th of August, IBC must have declared the winner or the lack of, or announced the final results. Then if anyone has an issue, they can go to the Supreme Court. But whatever happens, thereafter, we have to get back to doing our work. So how, in your view, should politicians facilitate that process after this polarized situation, whether it's by themselves or the citizens or collectively? How then do we get back to that society?
So I think the politicians must, the candidates must, in the context of a contested election, they must tell Kenyans to go back to work. They must tell Kenyans to go back to school. They must tell Kenyans to do that which they have done, that they would be doing in spite of an election. So that message needs to be very clear to people. And what we mustn't see is a prolonged economic crisis as a result of anxiety coming from an election process. Often during these periods, I'm asked, what do you think is going to happen? And I said the first thing that I have to advise people on is that there are no prophets here, right? There are no predictions in that sense. What will happen when it happens. And worrying about it or thinking about it doesn't actually make it happen any faster. It will happen when it happens. So people need to go back to work. People need to go back to their normal lives and essentially just continue. In a sense, the legal provisions are fairly clear. The constitution provisions are very clear. And therefore, there is no vacuum. There is no uncertainty in a moment like that for the country as a whole. But of course, we will be anxiously looking to see who is going to occupy State House and, of course, the 47 governments. So I think that's the first thing. I've often argued that actually after we go and vote, they should be like block parties. Let communities or throw parties, street parties, where they can enjoy themselves and really just talk to their neighbors, because many of the neighbors in the neighborhood will have voted different ways. And just reminding each other that they are still neighbors. They are still from the same village. That is very important. Let the universities have parties. Let the university students come back together and recognize that they may have voted differently, but they are still university students. I think building this sense of identity different from the election is really important in this immediate phase that we're going into.
Okay, very interesting. Of course, some of the messages that we've been hearing from the political circles, especially the Azimio team, they've been to the Rift Valley and they've been speaking about telling the people that you're here by right, no one is supposed to be pushing you out. Well, I don't know how that pans out. But for you, Kile, the same question to Irungu. From NARC Kenya, how will you facilitate the country and the society getting back to work?
This is just simply through cooperation and consultation and just talking with people and sharing information and just being proactive and active as a citizen and a responsible political party. Because the moment we stop talking, the moment we stop sharing ideas, the moment we stop respecting difference of opinions, that's when these differences, physical especially, or negative differences start coming up. So us as a party, we are big on consultation. Okay. We're big on sharing our ideas. We're big on occupying, providing a platform where people can have different opinions, but never coming to a point where you see yourself as enemies. So us, as with trainings that we did with our aspirants, and the talks, because this is a thing that we continually do, especially as members and as aspirants, we take them through such trainings where you can have debates, where you need to understand that you have an opponent and someone else has a different opinion and view on how to change the society. So us is all about just talking and talking and talking and keep talking.
Okay. Yes. All right. And just to wind up, Engineer Lazaro is saying that the ongoing exchange of bitter words between DP and his boss are scaring investors. Election is just one-day affair. Kenyans should vote for candidates of their own choice without any form of intimidation. Office of the president should be respected. That's Engineer Lazaro. Alo Kochieng, you're saying wise men are not pacifists. They are merely less likely to jump up and retaliate against their antagonizers. They know that needless antagonizers are virtually already insecure enough. Well, that's a bit of philosophical. Then, Kakaidu, you're saying, all we pray for is peaceful election next week. The president and his deputy should be on the forefront advocating for the same. The war of words between the two is polarizing the nation. And of course, Fred, I want to devote the remaining 2 minutes, actually, to the two of you. And this is because you're also involved in your respective teams. So, your word to the IEBC at a time that, yes, we saw last week there are certain concerns about the Form 34 series that has been resolved. They say they'll be communicating to the country once every day, or at least daily. then what, in your view, is that thing that should be the tick as you approach 9th of August from the entire process of elections?
We strongly believe that this election is going to be conducted by an independent body, and that commission is called IEBC. We have a lot of faith in IEBC. We have engaged, we have interacted as stakeholders, and we strongly believe that the issues that were there have been sorted. And if there's any that has not been sorted, we ask IEBC to conform at least to 2 provisions. One, whatever method that they're going to use, that method must be transparent, free, fair, accountable, and credible. Number 2, they must administer this election in a manner that is transparent and in a manner that Kenyans will believe for sure the winner of the election deserves the win, and everyone will be celebrating, including those.
Do you see the possibility of that from the system?
I see the possibility of that if IEBC continues to engage stakeholders as they have done in the recent past. We want to encourage them. In the few days that we are going, they have now camped at Bomas. That center that they have launched, that engagement that they have shown, that willingness that they have demonstrated, we are going to continue engaging them, and we are hopeful that this election will be an election that everyone will be happy about, but most importantly, an election that us as winners will celebrate with the losers.
Fred, honestly, I mean, you now have to start paying for it, yeah? Dr. Mbaye, finally, what for you is a must-get from IEBC?
Thank you very much. We are very happy that finally, after for the last few days, that Azimio team has agreed to come and talk, other than talking outside there about IEBC, to come and actually meet IEBC, talk to them about the issues. That is a very positive step. And we hope transparency, openness, communication, feedback. Those are the attributes that are going to make sure that by the 9th, everybody feels comfortable with the mediator, because it's important with the referee. That is the key thing. So once that is done, then we are going to bind ourselves to agree to accept the results. You are going to see that some, on our part, we are not very good at, chest dumping, says, we are taking this thing, loud one. We know the right, the power rests with the voter. If somebody came here, begin giving you our internal polls that I was interacting with as at midnight, showing us that we are past the 51%, then the other ones will say we are past. It will not help us. We know where we are with the Kenyans. We are waiting for the 9th. That's why we are so categorical. And
Are you speaking to a specific poll?
I'm saying our own internal polls.
By who?
The Kenya Kwanza, our own internal polls.
By who?
I'm saying internal, the ones we
conducted by who? That's what I'm asking.
Conducted by our own internal mechanisms, our technical people, right? I'm saying if we went that way, some will not finish the debate because we have ours. But as me always saying for 4 times, and you have not given them a bill, like an invoice or something.
You're attacking them, but making a similar allegation.
That's what I'm saying. If I was to go that way, there's what we know. So the best way to stop is to say something that we are waiting for the voter. Kindly, everybody make a decision as soon as possible, go and vote. We know the final decision rests with the voter. That is what is important. We want to thank everyone. Our president has a right. Remember the late President Moi?
Okay.
He had a right to say, Uhuru, I'm supporting you in 2002. But Kenyans had other ideas. But one thing I love about President Moi, he said, no, admit. Agree that we have lost it. 2013, there was the issue of ICC. People approached Kibaki, the late president, and said, no, Ruto and Uhuru cannot be elected. Let's get Mudavadi. Now, Kenyans said, no, we are the ones to elect Uhuru and Ruto. The same case here, the president has a right, by the way. Let's be very clear here. He has a right to say, this is a person I think should succeed me. But Kenyans should be allowed to.
Oh, okay. Kile, you appear to have a final word. Now that means that I also have to give to you.
Mine, I'd just like to end by quoting Theodore Herzl. If you will it, it stops being a dream. So let's stop dreaming of a peaceful election. Let's will it. Let's stop dreaming of accountable leaders. Let's will them in. Let's be selfish with our votes. Let's be specific with our votes. And let's will good leaders into power.
Okay.
That's my...
Irongo.
Just a thought actually that came up. So we missed an opportunity to see all the 4 presidential candidates shake hands at the debates last week. And I just wondered whether there was a moment that we could, that the political parties could create of the presidential candidates in a single place for an hour or so, basically just to greet each other before the end of the campaigns. I think this would be interesting. Or a joint statement calling for calm at a time like this, signed by all 4 Presidential
committing
Oh, that's-
peaceful
that's-
elections.
And some we need to make it a habit, a serious habit, that all presidential candidates should and must appear in debates. Now, in future, we need to line sign somewhere.
Don't reopen the debate,
Sorry.
Dr. Mbaye.
That was last week's conversation. But I think this week we could generate something like that. I think that would be very powerful.
You know,
Yeah, that's
Ilungu,
important, yeah.
The good thing is that we are lucky. We have someone who can speak to Azimio presidential candidate and someone who can speak to the Kenya Kwanza.
heartbeats away from
We are more than willing
And-
to meet our competitors and shake hands and tell them,
Just
let's
hold on.
compete fairly.
And one person who can speak to the running mate of the presidential candidate. So thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us. There's Bob Owino is saying that as IBC moves to Bomas, let us have trust and put confidence in them to conduct a credible election as we are in the final stretch. That's #Daybreak. Fred Okango from KANU, and of course Azimio la Umoja, Dr. Peter Mbaye, governance expert, but also working with the William Ruto presidential campaign. Irungu Houghton from Amnesty International, the executive director there, and Kabale Kile from NARC Kenya, deputy party chair.
Yes.
Thank you all for making time for us to have this conversation. My name is Sam Gituku. See you again tomorrow, same time on Daybreak, as you continue to count down the days to the election. Bye for now.